Hey everybody, Blugoblin here. Thank you for joining me for this video on behalf of Dark Avenger Inc. I'm here with a topic video. I really strongly considered making this a mission, but now because this is technically to me a topic video because I'm going to be sharing my opinion a lot in this video. But if you want to respond to this through the comment section, or what I would like to see personally is some video responses to this from any members of Dark Avenger Inc, Dark Avenger Inc Plus, or to anybody who just happens to be watching this video. This is a topic that I was wanting to do and kept putting it off, but this time I finally covered this. I'm doing a topic on which villain from Spider-Man Brand New Day was, in all of our opinions, the absolute worst. I'm going to give my opinions, and I'm going to throw it out to y'all. If you want to answer it, that's fine. It's not a mission. It's not something you're required to do, but I'd like to see some feedback on this, either in the comment section, but I would prefer to see a video response to this. You know, it could be any villain you want. Now, I would go through my comic book collection and pull out the issues and look up each villain individually, but I'm not in the mood to do that, so I'm just going to rely on some old-fashioned internet research. Okay, so I got three sources here that I'm going to be looking at here. The first is from comicbookresources.com. There's a forum on here that's probably really old, but it was an old poll on which Brand New Day villain are you most excited about. I wanted to share this because this is hilarious. The villains that they listed in this poll were Menace, Jackpot, who's not a villain, Freak, the Deity, Mr. Negative, Screwball, Paper Doll, and none of the above. Surprisingly, none of the above won this poll with over 37% of the vote. One person voted for the Mayan deity. This is hilarious. I don't know why Jackpot was on this poll. She was not a villain. Everybody thought she was Mary Jane. Turned out she was an actress. Well, no, she wasn't an actress. Excuse me. She was a superhero. She was a superhero female, but then turned out she gave up her role as Jackpot to a woman named Alana Dobson. We all know what happened there. But I want to go down this list on this website. Menace. Oh man, Menace. That was the Goblin knockoff that I believed and everybody else believed was Harry Osborn. It turned out to be his girlfriend, Lily Hollister. And what was even worse is that it wasn't a costume. She transformed into Menace. That was such a slap in the face to any Green Goblin fan. I hated her. I was glad when she disappeared. Freak had probably the most potential. Freak had probably the most potential to be a decent villain. Not a great villain, but at least decent. I don't think anybody really knew what his name was. I don't even know what his name was. And I got his books. But it was like a drug addict who got a bunch of chemicals spilled on him. Like that's original. And made him a grotesque monster. It had potential, but it seemed like Marvel was just writing his character on spur of the moment. You know, didn't really know what to do with him, and I haven't seen Freak since New Ways to Die, which was probably about like 5 years ago. So, good luck with that guy. The Deity. Oh man, that was lame. All I remember is that it was a Mayan God who invaded us during this big snowstorm. Spider-Man couldn't do any of his spiderly stuff. Couldn't web swing, couldn't cling to walls, and I think he like stuffed his costume with like newspapers and stuff so he can keep warm. And this Mayan deity had the super ability to punch Spider-Man through the panels of the pages of the comic. I just said that. Oh God. Oh, that was lame. That was probably some of the dullest Spider-Man stories I ever read. Jeez, that was dull. I wouldn't classify the Mayan deity as the worst, but probably the dullest. Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative. Man, that was also a villain that had a huge potential. However, it just seemed kind of lazy. It's like they just took a regular guy and somebody got Photoshop and swapped the colors and made him negative, and he was a mob boss, basically, with a good guy facade to cover him. We've seen stuff like that before. Just take a regular mob boss and color him with negative colors, and that's pretty much it. I mean, he was a good fighter. He was a decent fighter. He had some other powers in his repertoire, but he was so forgettable. It just, I mean, Marvel had a chance. Marvel had a chance with him, and they dropped the ball. I haven't seen Mr. Negative since Dark Reign, and I wouldn't be losing any sleep if we never saw Mr. Negative again. Screwball. Now, I was originally going to do this video and say that Screwball was the absolute worst in my opinion, but after thinking about it, she wasn't really the worst villain. It's just that she was probably the most pointless. I mean, her big claim to fame, she was wanting to be an internet celebrity or something like that, and she was good at parkour, which the last time I heard of parkour, I was seeing John Morrison do it in the WWE. And I'm like, okay, that seems alright. I mean, that's a good defense, but all she cared about was being internet famous, and she was the one dressed. There was an issue of Amazing Spider-Man during the Brand New Day debacle where there was another Spider-Man running around, and the teasing was like, was it a Skrull? No. Was it a clone? Get out of here. And what it turned out was it was Screwball dressed up in a Spider-Man costume. I'm like, really? Another Spider-Man running around, and that's really the best you could do? I mean, Screwball was a horrible villain. Horrible villain. Completely forgettable, and just outright, it's like, I would have called her the worst, but she was just completely pointless. I don't care if I never see her again. Back to Paper Doll. But there was another website, it was HenchmanForHire.com. They did a poll. They did a blog saying 6 Spider-Man Brand New Day villains who crashed and burned. And, you know, Mr. Negative ranked at number 6, stating that any idea that clearly started with the neat look then quickly lost focus. I can agree with that. They talked about Ben Gonzalez, the Spider-Man murders. Basically, it was Peter Parker's former roommate, just a regular guy. He was a crooked cop. He pled guilty to the Spider Tracer murders. He was fired from the NYPD, and then he was sent to jail. And we never saw him again. Who gives a shit? They talked about Paper Doll, Freak, Dexter Bennett. Fuck him. Pardon my French. I'm sorry. Pardon my French. I'm so sorry. Dexter Bennett. I didn't care about him at all. He was just. He's not a villain. He's not a villain. He's a sniveling butthead who was there for intentional mispronunciation of Peter Parker's name. And then when Peter Parker gets fired from the DB, from the Daily Bugle, which he turned into the DB, Then all of a sudden Dexter Bennett knows everything about Peter Parker, and all that's like, I didn't care. They got an honorable mention for Jackpot, and I'm like, Jackpot is not a villain. But and then there's a section on Wikipedia about Brand New Day, and they talked about another guy called Overdrive, who was able to, his superpower, and I swear I'm not making this up, his superpower was the ability to pimp out rides. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. But there's a reason why I saved Paper Doll for last, because in my opinion she was probably the worst, in my opinion. I mean, this is, where do I begin with Paper Doll? Paper Doll is like, oh my god. Henchman for Hire, I'm going to have to agree with a lot of the things they said. Her real name, I swear, Piper Dolly. Oh, the super ability to compress her body to paper thin flatness, and she's killed people, but you know that had such potential, but then her character development is what ruined her. She's an emo teenager with a stalker crush on a celebrity. Yay. What the hell, Marvel? I mean, these villains, these lame villains are the reason why Brand New Day was such a piece of crap. Don't get me wrong, it's not the worst Spider-Man story of all time. One More Day is. But Brand New Day, you follow up the worst Spider-Man story of all time with a story that had potential, but Marvel's really dropped the ball with these villains, with these characters, giving some of them lame character development, lame backstory, and the ones that did, and the villains that did have potential, Marvel dropped the ball with them, and we will probably never see them again. This is a prime example of a story that had some pieces of potential, but ultimately, like Paper Doll, I've been reading comic books for well over 20 years, and it astounds me that there actually are people out there who loved the Brand New Day storyline. I don't get it. It is such a piece of crap. It is one of the worst, if not one of the lamest Spider-Man storylines that I've ever read. And I've read just about everything associated with Spider-Man. Everything. This story, these villains, it makes Stiltman look like he's Lord of the Rings material. It's just ridiculous. So much wasted potential, so much lame writing, lazy storytelling. It was just god-awful. And this is just my opinion. You don't have to agree. You can agree. You don't have to. It's fine. But to me, Paper Doll was the worst Brand New Day villain. A villain that had probably some of the best potential, but they dropped the ball massively with her character. And that's why I believe she was the worst villain. It's not about powers. You need to focus on the character. What makes this character tick? And to me, Paper Doll, her character development sunk like a rock. It's just terrible. Terrible stuff. And I probably rambled on too much about this. I want to know what you thought. You know, post your opinions. Post your responses. Give a video response if you want to. I'd like to know which one of the Brand New Day villains was the worst in your opinion. This isn't a mission. You don't have to do it, but I'd like to get some feedback. But to me, Paper Doll, as a matter of fact, all these villains can go to hell for all I care. But I'd like to know what you think. So post a response. Do whatever you like. It'd be greatly appreciated. Subscribe to Dark Avenger Inc. Plus, Dark Avenger Inc. Follow them on Facebook. I'll put the links in the description, as well as links to my channels as well. I want to thank y'all for watching, and until next time, I'll see y'all later.